राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीर चारी यमुना तीर वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय श्री श्री राधा माधव की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, The Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 29, Talks between Narada and King Prachin Barhi, verse number 63. Once again. यथानुमीते चित्तम् उभयेन्द्रिये हिते एवं प्राग्देहजं कर्म लक्ष्यते चित्तवृत्तिभिः. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada. Translation: one can understand the mental or conscious position of a living entity by the activities of two kinds of senses, the knowledge acquiring senses and the executive senses. Similarly, by the mental condition or consciousness of a person, one can understand his position in the previous life. Purport: there is an English proverb that says the face is the index of the mind. If one is angry, his anger is immediately expressed in his face. Similarly, other mental states are reflected by the actions of the gross body. In other words, the activities of the gross body are reactions of the mental condition. The mind's activities are thinking, feeling, and willing. The willing portion of the mind is manifest by the activities of the body. The conclusion is that by the activities of the body and senses, we can understand the condition of the mind. The condition of the mind is affected by past activities in the past body. When the mind is joined with a particular sense, it immediately becomes manifest in a certain way. For instance, when there is anger in the mind, the tongue vibrates so many maledictions. Similarly, when the mind's anger is expressed through the hand, there is fighting. When it is expressed through the leg, there is the kicking. There are so many ways in which the subtle activities of the mind are expressed through the various senses. The mind of a person in Krishna consciousness also acts in a similar way. The tongue chants Hare Krishna, the Maha Mantra, the hands are raised in ecstasy, and the legs dance in Krishna consciousness. These symptoms are technically called Ashta Sattvic Vikara. Sattvic Vikara is transformation of the mental condition in goodness or sometimes transcendental ecstasy. Om Agyantimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Urmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshadarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 29, verse number 63. One can understand the mental or conscious position of a living entity by the activities of two kinds of senses, the knowledge acquiring senses and the executive senses. Similarly, by the mental condition or consciousness of a person, one can understand his position in the previous life. Hare Krishna. So King Prachin Bharishat, who is hearing from Narad Muni, he has finally got an understanding of the goal of life. The goal of life is not material advancement. The goal of life is not earning opulence. The goal of life is not going to heavenly planets. The goal of life is not doing ritualistic karma kand activities. The goal of life is to serve Krishna with love. So when he understands that, he has some questions. So one of the questions he asks to Narad Muni is that it says philosophically that a person suffers or enjoys the results of past karma. So King Prachin Bharisha said that if I do a karma, an action with this body, with this mouth, with this hand, and then death happens, the body goes away. So the karma done by the body, now I got a new body. So how the result of action performed by this body is transferred to the new body? How is it transferred? That is what he is asking. So if I perform action in this body and I get result in this body, I can understand. If I slap somebody and he slaps me back, I can understand. But if I slap somebody, then this body is dead, burnt. Then next life that person, he slaps in my new body, how will he identify and how does this result get transferred? That is what he is asking. So Narad Muni explains that there is gross body and there is subtle body. And inside that there is soul. Just like a person may wear a shirt and then a coat. Similarly, the soul in the region of the heart wears two bodies, one subtle body and one gross body. The gross body is what you see: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, hands, legs, mouth, stomach, organs. And the subtle body is mind, intelligence, false ego. So when death occurs, the gross body is burnt, finished or buried, but the subtle body is intact with the soul. So the soul with the subtle body goes to another gross body, but the mind, intelligence, false ego are transferred. They are same. So the account of karma, how much result of sukha and dukkha, enjoyment and suffering I am supposed to receive based on karma of this body. The body is gone, but the account remains in the subtle body. So when I transfer myself to new body, that account is activated. That account is activated. The super soul present takes care that in the new body I get the result of karmas performed in past body, because the mind, intelligence and ego continues. That's reincarnation or transmigration of the soul. So because there is continuous movement of mind, intelligence, false ego from one body to another body, the karmas, the samskaras also continue. In fact, mind and the subtle body which continue are more important factor to deal with than the gross body. And in this verse, Narad Muni says that whatever is happening in my gross body with my senses, 5 knowledge acquiring senses, 5 working senses. What are the 5 knowledge acquiring senses? Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin. 5 knowledge acquiring senses. I acquire knowledge of world around me through these 5 senses. How do you know I am speaking? That's because your ear is gathering that information. How do you know I am wearing orange? Your eyes is gathering that information. How do you know whether in your room it's hot or cold? Your skin is gathering that information. How do you know whether the object you put in your tongue is sweet or not? Your tongue is gathering that information. So the 5 senses, they gather information. That's called sense data. They gather data and they are input to the system. Then there are 5 working organs, working senses. Hands, legs, mouth, genitals and anus. They perform work. So seeing and observing 5 working senses and 5 knowledge acquiring senses, one can estimate a person's mind, a person's mental condition. And estimating a person's mental condition, one can estimate his past life. That's the science. For example, if mind has anger, then it will be visible in the body. The eyes will become red, the face will become tense, the hands will start fighting, the legs will start kicking, mouth will speak high volume and abusive words. The body will shake, tremble, somebody will bite his lips and his fist will close. And that's how they use this lie detection machine. How do you know a person is speaking lies? He knows, his mind knows. And then that is visible in his body. The symptoms are visible in the body. So what is happening in the mind gets visible in the body. And a person who is intelligent enough can identify that what this person is thinking or feeling or willing, seeing the bodily changes or transformations. So seeing the body, gross body, one can estimate the mind, and seeing the mind, one can estimate previous life. That's not easy. It's not science. It's not a science which everybody can understand or know, but it is possible because they are connected. That's why sometimes we see a child who is born to a particular set of parents has a particular skill or quality which both the parents don't have. So then one wonders, how does he know this or she knows this? That's because he's carrying samsara of previous life. The skill or quality of previous life is being transferred. The subtle body is same, so it's being transferred in the gross body. And that's why sometimes very good parents have very bad children, and sometimes very bad parents have very good children. So even though good parents give goodness to the child, but because he is carrying something bad from previous life, that bad is visible in his habits. And because bad parents are giving bad association to the child, but because he is carrying something good in his sanskar, it is visible in his habits and culture. And this is observed in many families, that good parents have children who become thieves, and thieves who have children who become honest, cheaters who have children who are very truthful, and honest parents who have children who are speaking lies. So the previous life samskara is carried by the child in the new life, and if that samskara is heavy as compared to what parents are providing, the child will act based on that samskara. But if what parents' education is heavy than the samskara, then the child will based as per that education. So if we want our child to grow, he should have a good samskara, and that samskar is formed during conception. That's called Garbhadan Sanskar. When the Atma, the soul, gets attracted to the womb of the mother. A soul with particular mental conscious condition equivalent to the mental conscious conditions of father and mother gets attracted to the womb of the mother. And once that attraction happens and the conception happens, after that parents cannot do anything to change the seed. Now the child will be born based on that samskar. Now you cannot do much to transform the child. So previous life activities, they make impressions on the mind, and mind is carried from previous life to next life, and present life activities are based on the impressions of the mind which are created by the activities of past life. So it's a wave. So my present activity will create an impression in my mind, and in next life that impression will give rise to another activity, and that activity will create new impression in my mind, and in the further life that impression will create another activity. So this continues, and a person is again born in material existence. So what is happening in the mind is visible outside. What is samskara in last life is eventually comes out. Like we have example of Bharat Maharaj. Bharat Maharaj is a very great king. That's why this country's name became Bharat. Earlier the whole Prithvi was called Bharat Varsh. The whole earth planet was called Bharat Varsh. Why? Because of Bharat Maharaj. He was such a great king. And he was a very great devotee. He renounced his kingdom and practiced bhakti. And he reached on the platform of Bhava Bhakti, developing emotional love for Krishna. But unfortunately, accidentally, he got attracted to a deer. He got attached to a deer. The deer became very dear. And at the time of death, he thought of the deer. And because his mind was highly occupied in affection to the deer, he left his body and carried that conception and consciousness, and next life he was born as a deer. That means the soul of Bharat Maharaj, when he left the human body, got into the womb of a female deer because he was so much absorbed in affection of a deer. And he got a body of a deer. In the same way, if a man or a woman is thinking of each other, then they acquire that kind of body in next life. And if a person is eating whole day junk food, he acquires the body of a pig, because pig whole day eats junk food. If a person keeps on eating flesh, he acquires body of a lion. If a person has unlimited sleep and he keeps on sleeps for 12 to 18 hours, he gets the body of a snake or a python who sleeps for 6 months. So what we do makes our mind, and what is in our mind makes our new doing, new action, and in that way the circle continues. That's why there are great studies by psychologists who teach people to understand non-verbal communication. In fact, they say 30% is what you speak and 70% is what you don't speak. So what is in the mind non-verbally is communicated by our body, by our face, by our eyes, by our hands, by our legs. We may not realize it. But in fact, we will realize it when we see others. If your mother or father or husband or wife becomes upset with you, they don't tell, but still you know they are upset. They are angry and they don't tell that I am angry on you, but still you understand. They are happy and joyful. They don't tell that today I am happy, but you will understand. So all these feelings in the heart and thoughts in the heart are eventually reflected in the face, eventually reflected in the actions, eventually reflected in the eyes. And that's science. Further science is what is happening in the mind is reflected from previous life. It is not suddenly started from the womb of the mother. And this is equally true with spiritual emotions. Even joy and love for Krishna in the heart is reflected in the body in the form of ecstasy, in the form of ecstatic symptoms, bodily symptoms. There are 8 ecstatic bodily symptoms. Tears coming from eyes, perspiration, trembling, voice choked up, becoming stunned like a statue, and bodily color changing and falling unconscious. These are 8 ecstatic symptoms, which is visible in great devotees. Even if devotees try to avoid it, it still happens. They don't do it as a drama. Some people may do as a drama to attract cheap adoration and cheap popularity, but it doesn't happen like a drama. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after taking sannyas, once he traveled to Varanasi, Banaras, Kashi, and there as a sannyasi, he would chant and dance on the streets of Varanasi for hours together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And hundreds and thousands and lakhs of people, millions of people would follow him and chanting and dancing. Somebody is crying and somebody rolling on the ground and somebody is laughing and somebody is stunned and somebody is paying obeisances. Somebody is trying to touch the feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Somebody is playing mridanga, somebody is playing kartal, somebody is clapping, somebody is jumping. Oh, lakhs and lakhs of people are chanting and dancing on the streets. And they are getting attracted to the beautiful form and beautiful Gauranga, golden form, and chanting and beautiful dancing and jumping of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And every day early morning Mangalarti, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would go to take darshan of Lord Shiva. In Varanasi there is a temple of Vishwanath, Lord Shiva's temple, main temple, on the bank of the Ganges. And every day during Mangalarti, hundreds of people would come to take darshan of Lord Shiva in the temple of Lord Shiva. Every day in Mangalarti early morning, thousands of people come in the temple of Lord Shiva to take darshan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He became so popular in Varanasi. But Varanasi at that time was seat of all the Mayavadi sannyasis headed by Prakashanand Saraswati. And when they heard there is a sannyasi who is chanting and dancing on the streets with low class people, with street people, they started criticizing Mahaprabhu. He said he is an emotional fool, emotional sannyasi. He is chanting on the street with street people. He is not associating with us and studying Vedanta. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard this criticism, but he didn't take it seriously. But his devotees were not happy with it. So one day, one Maharashtrian Brahman, he invited Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for lunch. And he invited all other sannyasis, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu agreed. So all the sannyasis headed by Prakashanand and Saraswati were seated, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived in that assembly and paid obeisances very humbly and washed his feet and sat at the same place where he was washing his feet, a dirty place. And then when he sat at the unclean place in a very humble way, and there was so much effulgence and golden beauty, Prakashanand, Saraswati and all other sannyasis, their heart was attracted. And Prakashanand Saraswati got up, he said, "Oh, my dear Lord Narayan," they call each other Narayan, "why are you sitting here? What is pain in your heart? What is paining in your heart?" And he extended his hand, he said, come, sit beside me. And he made him sit beside himself. Then Prakashanand Saraswati asked him that you are a sannyasi, and the duty of sannyasi is to perform austerities and read Vedanta Sutra. So why don't you come with us, stay with us and discuss Vedanta Sutra with us? Why are you chanting and dancing like an emotional person on the street? And why are you jumping up and laughing and crying? Why are you doing all this? Chaitanya said, I am not doing all this, it is just happening. Please understand, I am not doing drama, I am not acting, it is just happening. My body is not in my control. When I met my spiritual master, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's spiritual master is Srila Ishwar Puri. So my spiritual master told me, you are a fool number one. You cannot understand Vedanta. So you just chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So then my spiritual master instructed me to chant the holy name, and I started chanting. And whenever I chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, tears start coming automatically from my eyes, hairs are standing on my body, and my body is shivering, and perspiration starts coming, and my voice is choked up. Sometimes I dance, sometimes I laugh, sometimes I cry. I became madman. Walking on the street among so many public strangers, suddenly I start laughing, or sometimes suddenly I start crying, or sometimes I suddenly get stunned, and people think I am crazy, I am mad. Suddenly I am dancing on the street among strangers. So I really got worried, what is happening? So I went back to my Guru Maharaj. He said, what kind of mantra you have given me? Sometimes I am dancing, sometimes I am laughing, sometimes I am crying, sometimes I am stunned, and I can't control my body, tears are coming, and I fall unconscious, I have become madman. Everybody around me are telling you I have become mad. What kind of mantra you gave me? Ishwar Puri smiled. He said, oh, shabash, very good. You have become successful. The mantra has become successful, because this is the real benefit and outcome of chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. One becomes mad in Krishna Prem. Now you go and you tell others to chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. A person who has received the holy name and he has chanted without offenses, and he has developed Krishna Prem, when he goes out and tells others to chant, he can transform others' heart. He can explain to others and convince them to take up Krishna consciousness, like Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada went to Western countries in America, and they didn't know anything about Krishna, and he started chanting the holy name, and he attracted Westerners who never heard about Krishna, and they became sannyasis and great Vaishnavas. So that's the purity of Srila Prabhupada. How much faith I have, how much purity I have, that will get transferred to the heart of my audience when I chant the holy name and speak Srimad Bhagavatam. So if I give a Bhagavatam class or I chant the holy name of Krishna and I have 10% faith, that class will transfer 10% faith in the heart of the audience. If I have 50% faith, that same class will transfer 50% faith in the heart of the audience. So our faith and purity is very important when we preach. But nevertheless, one should preach and speak the content as it is. But a Mayavadi or a Vaishnava Aparadi, when he speaks Bhagavatam or chants the holy name, nobody's heart gets transformed. That happened with Devanand Pandit. Devanand Pandit was a very big scholar who was teaching Bhagavatam for years together, but not a single of his students developed bhakti, because a guru is devoid of bhakti. How will audience develop bhakti even though both are discussing Srimad Bhagavatam? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Ishwar Puri, and Ishwar Puri said, you are successful, now you go and preach. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Prakashan and Saraswati, then my spiritual master, he taught me one more verse. Which verse? Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Namaiva Kevalam, Kalau Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva Gatir Anyatha. And he told me, keep this verse very, very important. That in Kalau, in Kaliyug, the only Gati, the only process of liberation is Hari Nam, Hari Nam, Hari Nam, the holy name of Hari, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Nasteva, 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 Gatir Anyatha. Nasteva, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. Only one way, that is chanting of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to Prakashan and Saraswati, whenever I chant, all these bodily changes happen automatically. And why these changes are happening in the body? Because in the mind there is Krishna Prem. Because the heart is occupied with Krishna Prem. Why heart is occupied with Krishna Prem? Because the holy name, sweet, pure holy name without offenses is being chanted and heard. When I chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra with my lips, it goes into my ears, and from the whole of the ear, the holy name, the sound vibration travels to my heart, and then the heart changes, and the heart becomes purified, and the soul is awakened that yes, I am servant of Krishna, and Krishna Prem is received in the patra, in the utensil of the heart. The only way the holy name can reach the heart is through the ears. It cannot reach through the nose or eyes. This is the entrance. The only name, the holy name can reach the heart is through the ears, and the holy name can go inside the ears through the lips. So when I chant, I should be attentive. When we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So the lips will give out the sound, and the ears will capture the sound, and the ears will travel the sound to the heart, and the heart will become purified, heart will be transformed, and that transformed heart, the behavior of the body will change, the behavior of the senses will change. No longer my senses will be attracted to sense objects, no longer my tongue will rush to eat unoffered food, no longer my eyes will be attracted to see material beauty, and no longer my hands and legs will work for sense gratification. Why? Because the heart is transformed. So now the karmendriya and the gyanendriya also change their habits and behavior. Since we are practicing so many years Krishna consciousness, now somebody gives you onion, garlic, nice item, you will reject it. Forget, even if there is a most attractive fruit or whatever, and it is informed to you that it is not offered, you will not feel like eating it. Oh, it's not offered, I should not touch it. But if it is offered, we get attracted. It's Krishna's Mahaprasad, it's Krishna's mercy. That happens with devotees. Why this change has occurred? Why this attraction has gone? Because the heart has been transformed. So when the mind and the heart are transformed, then the behavior changes. So by seeing the behavior, one can know whether the heart condition what it is, and by knowing the heart's condition, one can know what was previous life condition. So in Vaishnava society, we learn a good behavior and we change our heart, both the things. It should not happen, I don't change my heart, but artificially I behave nicely. How long? I cannot do long. I cannot cheat for long. I cannot artificially continue for long. One day I will fall down, because the sinful habits in the heart will require some expression. So in public I will be nice, but in closed doors I will be a third class rascal. I will be a pretender. I will be a duplicit person wearing a dress of a sadhu and giving class, but in closed doors I will be thinking of enjoying woman or money or opulence or sense gratification. Such pretenders, such kapati, duplicit people, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doesn't like. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is patita pavan, not kapat pavan, not pretender pavan. He doesn't get pleased with pretenders. So we don't need to try to claim to be what we are not. Trying to claim to be an advanced devotee or a mature person or a pure devotee when inside we are not. A preacher should not do that. He should not sit in Vyasasana displaying what he is not, promoting himself what he is not, and trying to attract followers. That's highly offensive, betraying somebody's faith, highly offensive to bhakti, the process of bhakti. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is ready to give mercy even to Jagai and Madai who honestly come and confess their sins, but is not ready to give mercy to Chota Haridas who is a sannyasi and who performs very nice singing for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Harinam. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't give him mercy. Why? Because he saw kapat in his heart. He had secret attraction for woman, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't like that. So we have to transform our heart, not just artificially behave nicely, thinking that yes, this is what devotee is. A devotee is one whose behavior is nice and his heart is nice. He has love for Krishna. He has faith on Krishna. He is dependent on Krishna. He has genuine humility, not just artificial humility. But that doesn't mean still I do not develop genuine humility, I behave arrogantly or proud. No, I behave nicely. I control dirty things in my heart which will make me behave bad, which will make me behave offensive. But I cannot control for whole life. One day it will outburst. So not only I control, but also I repair my heart. I transform my heart. I rectify my heart. So both the things we do. If your roof is leaking, not only you control the damage by putting a bucket below, but bucket will fill and overflow, then again new bucket will have to be put. So while the water is getting collected in the bucket, we make sure we repair the roof. So while we control our behavior through Vaishnava etiquette, we also repair our heart. We also change our heart, and that happens by two, Shravan and Kirtan, by hearing and by chanting the holy name and hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam class and hearing the holy name, our heart will be transformed. So Narad Muni is explaining that what is visible in the gross body helps us to estimate the position of mind, the consciousness. And what is the consciousness and mind helps us to estimate what is in previous life. So what is happening in previous life, that is being carried forward in this life, and what is happening in this life, that is being carried forward in next life, and all this is visible in our karma. So to promote ourselves, update ourselves, upgrade ourselves to better life and eventually liberation, back home, back to Godhead, we should change both our karma and our mental position, which happens by education, which happens by hearing and by following Vaishnava etiquette. Srila Prabhupada, when he gave initiation to devotees, he said these 5 vows have to be taken. One, that minimum 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra on japa beads every day. Minimum 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra on japa beads every day. One round means 108 times Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And 4 regulative principles: no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex. These vows we should follow. And every day we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, attend Mangalarati, Guru Puja, eat only prasad, honor only prasad. We follow this Vaishnava etiquette, Vaishnava Sadachar, and our life is changed. We become a better person. We become a pure devotee. We receive Krishna Prem by causeless mercy of Krishna. And we go back home, back to Godhead. Otherwise, the transmigration is happening and we will get maybe not a human body. We may get a dog or a cat or a tiger or a monkey or an insect or a snake or a bird or an animal or a tree or an aquatic fish body. What is the use there? Any intelligent person should know that next life also I should have a better body, a better life. That's long-term investment. And best is to stop the cycle of birth and death by going back home, back to Godhead. So if I think of Krishna at the time of death, I will attain Krishna consciousness. I'll go back home, back to Godhead. If I think of sense gratification, I'll take birth in this world. So in order to think of Krishna at the time of death, whole life we have to practice thinking of Krishna, chanting of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam, so that at the end of life we think of Krishna, we hear or chant Hare Krishna, and we go back home, back to Godhead. Okay, we will end here. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. If there are any questions or comments, you may please ask. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, any questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you for the very nice class. You said chanting and hearing can lead us to the transformation of the heart, but if the heart is not being transformed, what is the reason and how can we improve our hearing and chanting that it becomes transformed?
Well, a general reason is that due to offenses, the heart takes time to transform. So we chant without offenses. We avoid the 10 offenses and chant attentively. At the same time, it's a gradual process. It will take time. So we should patiently continue chanting without offenses and hope to receive Krishna's mercy and get perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
My question is how to control desires.
Well, we are not stones. Stones don't have desires. We will have desires. It should not happen that my only desire is to have no desires. My only desire is to be desireless. This is also a desire, to be desireless. So we cannot stop having desires. So we should have good desires, spiritual desires, which is to desire to chant the holy name, desire to offer bhoga to Krishna, desire to offer arti, desire to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So we should dovetail this tendency of having desires to serve Krishna. So whatever desires we have, we should connect it to Krishna. If you have desire to eat nicely, you cook, offer to Krishna, and then honor that prasadam. If you have desire to hear music, you hear kirtan. If you have desire to visit some nice place outside the house, you go to temple. If you desire to make friends, meet devotees. If you desire to read Bhagavatam. If you desire to go for vacation, go to Vrindavan. So in that way, we dovetail our desires, connect it to Krishna so that we become purified. Is that okay?
Thank you, Prabhu. Yes.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for the nice class. Prabhu, actually, in case of Jad Bharat, I was reading yesterday. It happened like he fell down because of the previous pious karmas. That's what it says. Because of the previous pious karma, and this was bound to happen. So I was thinking, how come? Because he was performing pure devotional service, how come his and he was kind of sarvadharman parityajya. So how come his karmas, pious karmas, didn't vanish while doing that devotional service nicely?
Yeah, the same verse which you are referring to, where Shukdev Goswami says that this fall down happens because of previous karmas. Srila Prabhupada explains that Jad Bharat did so nice bhakti that all his karmas must have finished, which you said is true. So this happened because of his misuse of free will. So his karmas are almost finished. He is on Bhava platform. But now when he saw a baby deer, and he thought that if I don't take care, this deer will die. So he tried to become God. So he misused his free will, brought the deer in his ashram, and he started taking care of deer and giving more importance to deer than his own morning sadhana. So early morning when he would perform yajna and sit on meditation, every few seconds he will open the eyes and search for the deer. And if the deer is not near the ashram, he will stop his yajna, go down, bring the deer back, and again continue his puja. So he misused his free will and developed that affection for the deer, which we should have rejected. So he thought that if I am not taking care of the deer, the animals will eat. But there are so many other deers in the forest. He is not worried about those forest deers, but he is worried about this deer whom he protected. So that bhav is called Ishwar bhav, that I am God, I am maintainer. So Prabhupada explained that was a misuse of free will which led to this situation. And more important is, instead of judging Jad Bharat, our duty is to learn from this episode that I should be very careful. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Next
I have a question about samskaras.
Yes.
Sorry, nobody else was saying.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I mean, sometimes I wonder, because sometimes in Mahabharata it is said that Duryodhana was evil. But the circumstances in which he was born, like I mean, Dhritarashtra was envious of his brother, and even Gandhari was distressed because Kunti Maharani gave birth first. So, and from birth, the Kauravas, they were subjected to so much. They were trained by Shakuni, and the circumstances in which they were raised, it was like they were subjected to so much envy. They were trained in such a way that they were envious of the Pandavas, and so so like the samskaras are so strong that they have to be envious of Pandavas, and so sometimes I wonder that what is the, I mean, what does bhakti do? I mean, what like, I don't know if I'm asking a good question, but was he like originally evil, or the circumstances make people evil? Is there like an original evilness, or circumstances make us evil? That is my question.
Okay, so there is an example of Narad Muni, who was born to a Shudra mother with no father, and 4 pure devotees visited the house for 4 months, and the mother served the pure devotees, and Narad Muni would sit around them when they would discuss Bhagavatam among themselves, and he got blessings, and he became a great soul, Narad Muni, as we know him today. So there are 3 items which heavily influence the personality of a child as he grows up. The 3 items are past life samskaras, past life karmas. Second is the consciousness of the parents at the time of conception, that is the samskar. And the third is present life association. So if past life is evil and conception time is good, and evil is greater than good, the child will be turned out to be evil. If the past life is bad, but the conception is good, and that good is comparatively higher than the bad, then that good will kill the bad, and the child will be turned out to be good. If the past life is good, conception is good, but present friends are very bad, drunkards and all kind of smokers and drug addicts, he may have bad habits, but he can be easily reformed because there is goodness inside. So these 3 play a role: last life karma, present association, and conception. So whichever is prominent, that will have heavy, all 3 have influence. Whichever is prominent will have heavy influence on the child's consciousness, and child will turn out accordingly. The only loophole in all these 3 is association of pure sadhus. If a child gets association of pure sadhus, then all these 3 can be counteracted by the blessings of a sadhu, by a simple blessing of the sadhu. That's why parents should always invite sadhus in their houses, feed them nice prasad, and request them to bless the children. And in that way, the children will be blessed. They should utilize this opportunity to give dakshina to cows, sadhus, and deities through the hands of the children, so that the children get blessings, and past life karmas, present life association, as well as samskaras can all be negated by blessings of a sadhu. That's the only loophole. So all 3 act. And does that answer?
Yes, Prabhu, that makes sense. Those 3 are not in our control, right? I mean, the child does not have any control of.
Well, we don't have control over past life karma, but if the couple is planning a child, they have control over the conception, and they have control over giving a good association to the child by educating the child to choose good friends, providing a spiritual atmosphere to the child, providing devotee friends to the child, inviting sadhus to the house and giving him good association, taking him to temple for Mangal Arati and making him sit in Bhagavatam class. So these parents can provide.
Okay. I mean, some people, like, even though they are in good association, they continue to be bad.
Yeah, that's possible.
How can we explain that?
No, so that means the previous karmas are too heavy, they are taking time to negate. So that negation will not happen in one day. It depends on how heavy they are and how pure is association. So they will keep like disease. You go to a good doctor and take a good antibiotic. Still, some infection will take 15 days. Some infection will take 9 months. Like tuberculosis. Once it's in the body, it will take 9 months of medicines. It cannot be over in 3 months. So some infection from previous life will take a larger time to negate. So till that happens, a bad behavior and bad habits may be visible, but we have to keep giving opportunity and chance.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much. So in this case, Duryodhana was actually evil, right?
Yes. In this case, all the three were combined.
Makes sense, yeah. Thank you.
Next.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I have a question on offering food to Krishna. So here I don't know, but I have experienced that sometimes I have leftover food and I don't cook on one day, but I offer milk and sweet in the morning. So how do you consider offering food? Like, I already offered food and I'm not cooking today. So do we have to cook everything for Krishna or just offering milk and sweet should be enough? And that considered to be offered food.
Well, the temple standard is we cook every time for Krishna fresh. And if you have a VIP guest in the house, what are you going to do? You are going to cook every time fresh.
Yes.
Of course, Krishna is not your VIP guest. He is the owner of your house. We are servants, so he should be given fresh. At the same time, knowing the householder situation, Krishna adjusts. So in temple, we follow Krishna's standards. And in house, Krishna follows our standards. So if you are not cooking, okay, you don't offer. You tell Krishna, go to temple and eat. I am not cooking today. So you will go to temple and eat. But the best thing is to serve Krishna with love by properly fresh cooked. But if there are limitations in circumstances in the house, then Krishna adjusts, because you may not have an installed deity, I guess, or you may just have a photo. So that standard can be compromised as per house situation. So if you get up late in the morning, Krishna will get up late. If you cook late, Krishna will eat late. If you don't cook, Krishna will manage. So that cannot happen in the temple, but in house there is some leeway. So when you are not cooking, so you offer him milk, sweets, fruits, dry fruits.
Okay, thank you.
Or another option is if you have nearby devotee family and you have deities, you can tell them, look, today I am not cooking. If you are cooking, send one plate. I will offer to Krishna and give the plate back to you.
Oh, okay.
So Krishna will eat and you will also eat. Or you send deities to their house. Say, go and eat there today. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions?
You were talking about Shravanam Kirtanam in response to the question that because of offenses the process becomes slow. I mean, it's not. And we have this verse, Bahu Jarma Kare Yadi Shravan Kirtan, Tabudana Bhai, Krishna Pade Premtan. Even if one chants and hears for many births, but he will not get love of God if he is infested with the 10 offenses. So one of the offenses to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. That's what we recite. So sometimes these material attachments are there, but then we can dovetail it. Like you were saying, we can dovetail it in Krishna's service. So if I have desire to make a lot of money, then I give some money to Krishna also, and then I'm also using money, so like that. So what is exactly like to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter? What is exactly that
Yeah.
what to say?
So dovetail is one way not the final way. The final way is not to be interested only in money, but to be interested in Krishna. So since our material attachment has not gone, so we are dovetailing it. But after years and years of practice, we are still attached to objects rather than being attached to Krishna. That's not good. Our attachment to Krishna should increase and attachment to material sense object should decrease. That's progress in Krishna consciousness. So devotee should happily give all the objects and money he has in the service of Krishna. And instead of trying to shop more or amass more objects, he should amass more holy name, amass more chanting and hearing. So to maintain material attachments means keeping the same standard of attachments, not reducing. So we should increase our bhakti, not increase our attachments.
Because sometimes we say, oh, it is not material because I am dovetailing it in Krishna's service. Like, I mean, of course, Krishna has to be offered. At a point when desire not to be, prasadam can also become like sense gratification.
Yes. So initial days we dovetail. Okay, I want to eat samosa. So I cook, offer and eat. That's dovetail. Every day. But gradually what should happen is once a month I eat samosa because I like it. Not that still I continue every day. So gradually by chanting the holy name, this will reduce. And I will eat samosa once a month. Then gradually I'll finish the desire. Okay, when Krishna wants to eat samosa, that time we will cook. And happily distribute it rather than keep for myself. If I get, that's fine. If I don't get, that's fine. Krishna got it, that's sufficient. So gradually these changes should occur. So initially we may dovetail our sense gratification with Krishna, but eventually we should be concerned only about Krishna's sense gratification and not our requirements. So if I get khichdi also is okay like that.
Okay, thank you. I was also thinking one comment that when Bharat Maharaj you were mentioning that he was doing his sadhana and he was worrying about the deer. So I was thinking about the four Kumaras, the son of Kumar says to Prithu Maharaj that the greatest obstacle is to think that something else is more priority in my life than Krishna consciousness.
Right.
The great obstacle. So Bharat Maharaj was thinking that the deer carrying or looking after the deer is more important than his focus on Krishna. And I was relating to it. Sometimes you chant and some phone call comes and you're doing or somebody comes and then you stop your japa. And so you think, oh, that thing is more important than japa, so you stop that. So like that I was thinking also.
Right. That's correct. So Krishna is more important. Thank you.
Another question, sometimes it says according to the conception of the male and female, this particular soul is attracted to the womb. But then we also hear how the soul falls from the heavenly planets. He comes in the form of rain, and then the rains form the crops. The crops are eaten by the men, and then the soul enters the semen, and then it is transmitted into the... So that is another way the transmigration of the soul also happens. Sometimes we hear that, okay, the soul, a particular soul, according to the mentality of the male and female, is attracted to the womb. So both are correct, right?
Yeah, these are not contradictory. When a man eats the grain and the soul enters the semen, there are many, many souls. So based on the consciousness of the male and female, that particular consciousness soul will get attracted to the womb. And the conception will happen. So both are correct. They are both part of the process. Not every grain which is containing soul goes into the man's mouth will form a conception. It can pass out also. Okay?
And that is only from heavenly planets, right?
Yes, yes.
But souls can come from same planet also.
Same planet, lower planets. Sometimes the grains are eaten by animals and the man eats non-vegetarian food, that same flesh of the animals, and the soul enters into the body of the man in that way through flesh also. So there are so many combinations. Okay, next.
I think that's it. That's the question.
Okay, we will end.
Thank you very much, Guru, for your class.
Yeah, okay.
Friday. Please every Friday.
Is there a question?
Every Friday. We are going to meet every Friday.
Yes, every Friday. For next 6 weeks, I have some schedule on Wednesday. So Friday will meet.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna, thank you. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Can you cut the call? My screen is frozen.